I, 47 female, have always had a very strained relationship with my brother, 51. He had a bad accident when he was 17 and spent 3 months in a coma. Ever since he's been a child, my parents swooned over him and made excuses for everything he did. I've been to therapy because of this for over a decade, as I resented him for my parents forgetting about me when I was younger, even though I love my parents to death. My nephew, 31, has also been raised by my parents. His mom passed away and my brother lived with our parents till about 4 years ago when he moved in with his girlfriend. Because my brother is disabled, my parents took care of a lot of the childcare over the years, till my nephew moved out of state 5 years ago for his job. A couple of weeks ago, my parents met with their lawyer to set up their will, as they're both no longer in the best of health and want to make sure we're taken care of. The only big thing they have is their house and car. They were talking about how they want to split the inheritance 3 ways, and I got confused and asked them why 3 ways, considering it's only my brother and me. They said they wanted my nephew in there as well, as they basically raised him since birth and considered him largely as their child too. I told them that's unfair, as I have 2 kids, and they should also be if my nephew is in the will. My brother said that what they're doing with their money is their business and I should stay out of it, but I disagreed. Eventually my parents agreed and didn't give my nephew his share. My brother called it a giant idiot move and called me petty to punish my nephew for my resentment toward him. We broke out into a fight that my parents had to, unfortunately, break up. My nephew called me a couple of days ago to check in on my youngest, as he's her godfather. He'd already heard about what happened and just said it was a bit of a Karen move to make. However, he's unbothered by it as it's none of his business, but my brother is still very upset with me, and my parents are rather cold to me as well. Am I the idiot here? Not the idiot. Are your parents cold to you for being factual? They have 3 grandkids, so if they want to give to their grandkid, they should also give it to the other 2. Fair is fair. Do they even know or address that they caused you to be in therapy because of them? Sure, your brother needed more support, but they ignored you. Yeah, the other nieces and nephews should get a portion if the nephew gets a portion. Giving to one grandchild because he lived with them isn't much of a justification on its own. Their reasoning is flawed, though, that it would essentially give 2/3 to the brother and his family, leaving 1/3 for OP and her family. The grandparents don't need justification for what they do with their money, in my opinion. OP has a right to her feelings, and she's obviously allowed to feel upset. But nothing is owed to her necessarily, that's for her parents to decide. As I get older, I've realized that what is equal and fair isn't always the same. It sounds like OP's brother is needier than she is through no fault of his own, and OP's nephew had to grow up with a disabled father and no mother. He was needier as a kid than OP's children too. There's no robbery, nobody's taken anything that OP owns. OP, you are the idiot. Your nephew and your kids are not the same in this situation. Your parents practically did raise your nephew, so to them, considering that he's like a son to them, it is really understandable. My brother called me petty to punish my nephew for my resentment toward him. Isn't this what actually happened, though? Why was it so important for you that the nephew is not included in the will? It's your parents' money, not yours to share after all. Sorry you were the invisible child, but this was an idiot move. I 100% agree. Your nephew has a disabled father and a dead mother, and you're crying about some money not being fair to you? That's just horrible. You're 47. It's way past time to grow up. It's amazing how grabby people get with the possessions of others when the subject of death comes up. They raised him just like they raised the 2 of you. Would you be saying the same thing if they'd simply adopted a 3rd child? Sheesh. My mother was a talented seamstress and worked in fashion for a long time. When she married my father, her employer designed and created a bespoke dress for my mother as a wedding gift. The dress is stunning. I know it sounds hyperbolic, but it's honestly a work of art. Hand-embroidered, hand-beaded, the whole 9 yards. Before she passed, my mother split up several of her possessions based on our personalities and was explicit about who got what in her will. I was gifted the dress, and my sister received jewelry, including pieces my mother wore on her wedding day. My sister is engaged, and she recently asked me to gift my mother's dress to her so she could wear it on her wedding day. I told her no for various reasons. The dress was gifted to me specifically, and it's one of the last few meaningful possessions of my mother's that I have. My sister is 3 or 4 sizes larger than my mother. Nothing against her, she's healthy and beautiful, but wearing the dress would require her to let the dress out at the seams, requiring much of the embroidery and beading to be destroyed and redone. The dress cannot be properly restored and maintained. My sister implied that as a gift it would then become hers. I asked if that meant she'd give me some of my mother's jewellery in return, and she said no, which rubbed me the wrong way. By the way, I don't want to trade. The dress has too much sentimental value to me. I just wanted to see where my sister's heart was, and it felt selfish to me. She's since started a campaign about me to family. She's been crying to my dad and writing nasty things about my selfishness. She's even brought up the fact that I'm a widow, likely to never remarry, and that I'd never have any use for the dress. I feel justified in what I did, but based on what I've been hearing from my family, I feel like I'm really ruining her wedding, and it's caused a strain between me and my father. I wonder if I'm being needlessly stubborn. OMG, Kim K is in Marlin's dress all over again. A bespoke beaded high-end gown is nothing like a David's bridal special. There is absolutely no way to magically make this type of gown 3 or 4 sizes larger without destroying it. Just isn't a thing. If you're feeling kind, which I wouldn't understand given what a bratty hose beast of a sister you have, take excellent pictures of the dress, and sis can spend the 50 to 130,000 making this sort of gown would cost. It sounds like she wants the bling of a dress she can't afford otherwise and doesn't care if it hurts you or destroys the dress. I make these types of gowns. They are very personal art. I believe your mother left it to you because you understand it's much more than a garment. It's a resume of her life and work and an artistic expression of who she was and how loved she was by those she worked with. It sounds like your mom knew her daughters well. The materialist one got the jewelry and you got this precious memory. Hard, such a hard, not the idiot. Absolutely, a decent seamstress wouldn't touch a dress of this nature to let it out 3 sizes, which means the sister would have to find someone disreputable or incompetent to do it and ruin the dress. Your sister won't essentially trade you something else, and she assumed she'd get the dress, not just borrow it. Lastly, your sister is a major idiot for mentioning that you're a widow. I would go low contact with your sister, if not no contact. The widow's comment sealed that for me. You're not ruining her wedding. Her dramatic antics and heartless behaviours are. Please hide that dress. Some background info. My dad died before I, 18 male, was born, and my mom remarried and had my half-sister, nearly adult, with her new husband. Last year, my grandparents, dad's parents, told me they'd been saving a college fund for me, and over the years they've saved a substantial amount. This year, I applied to colleges and got into my dream school, Oxford. To clarify, I'm American, so not eligible for most forms of financial aid, and going there would wipe out most of my college fund. I also got into some really good options in the US, like Berkeley, UCLA, and Cornell, all with generous scholarships and financial aid that meant I could attend very affordably. I considered all my options and decided that it was worth paying more for Oxford because A, it will get me closer to my long-term goals, and B, it's been a lifelong dream of mine to attend. My sister and mom didn't like this decision. Essentially, they wanted me to go to an affordable option and give the college fund to my sister. This is because my sister doesn't have the grades to get scholarships and will need money to pay for college, whereas I can go for almost free. Honestly, that's not my problem. My sister isn't even related to my dad or grandparents, so it wouldn't make sense to give the money to her. Plus, it's her responsibility to get good grades, so I don't see why I should have to give up my dream because she didn't do well. She confronted me, calling me selfish for refusing to help her, saying I'm making her sacrifice her dreams of attending college. I pointed out she was doing the same thing, asking me to give up my dream. She called me a selfish idiot. She's at fault here because she failed to do what she needed to do to achieve her goals and is now asking me to make sacrifices for her. Am I the idiot? Edit, my grandparents gave me the money to use when I turned 18, so technically I could, but of course I don't want to. Excuse me, your sister wants you to pay because she isn't studying enough, and your mom agrees with it? Do not even discuss it with them. Not the idiot at all. You're not making her sacrifice her dreams. She did it with her poor grades, and her mother and father failed her by not putting savings aside for her college. OP, your paternal grandparents are sponsoring your dream, so why does she not ask her paternal grandparents to sponsor her dream? Or even their maternal grandparents could help. Please change your passwords to your accounts just in case, and make sure nobody has any authority on your account. Explain the situation to your grandparents and ask them to help you situate the money to protect it from anyone trying to get at it. Your sister can go pound sand or get a job. Your mom and stepfather too for not saving for their daughter's tuition. Shame on them. Opportunities like Oxford knock once in a blue moon. Please don't let go of that. You'll regret it later. Fly to London. Chase your dreams. You can use some distance between you and your family. My boyfriend, 29, and I, 28 female, met in the same company. I've since left, but he's still there. He makes about $130,000 in tech sales. I make $180,000 as a cloud architect. He likes to complain because his commission compensation was reduced and the pre-sales engineers got a raise. It's because a lot of salespeople were writing really aggressive contracts that led to unhappy customers, and now the guidelines for sales have made it harder to make sales. My boyfriend used to make $40,000 more, so he's a bit angry about that, although to me it's just the natural turn down in the tech sector. He was talking crap about how all pre-sales engineers do is talk about products on PowerPoint and don't do any actual work that makes the customer sign. I got annoyed because he doesn't know anything about tech, and most pre-sales engineers I used to work with had 4 to 8 years of software development experience, not to mention very specific training on the products before they got to be making that salary. I have 2 years of support experience and 3 years of software dev experience before I made $180,000. And my boyfriend only has sales experience, so to discount with how much knowledge is needed is pretty crappy. He said he knew some coding and could take their jobs. I told him that since he thinks he knows their role, he should be able to pass a junior coding interview and technical questions. He agreed and said the loser paid for dinner, and I agreed. I got some interview questions and coding questions like FizzBuzz and hashmap coding questions. He couldn't answer a single question, like what's the difference between Java and Python, explain what the OSI layers are, what caching is, and the craziest one is, what's the difference between SaaS and IaaS, which he definitely should know because he's selling SaaS products. I had 10 very basic questions and he couldn't answer a single one. He also didn't make any of the code runs. He was angry and argued with me the entire time, but I googled things to prove he wasn't right. He would sulk and didn't pay for dinner. I was kind of bitter that he didn't pay for dinner. When a friend of his came over a week later, I told him about it. We had a good laugh because he always likes to complain about how easy engineers have it while he has to travel, and boasts how he could do their jobs easily. He was there and yelled at me later for humiliating him. OMG, break up with him, he's too old for this crap. Not the idiot. He didn't pay for dinner. He's a brat and doesn't appreciate other people's expertise, nor apparently his girlfriend, nor honor his word. Dump him and move on. People like that don't grow up. This exactly. He went from being a tool to a flaming idiot when he went from talking smack, about his own girlfriend no less, to being a sore, foot-stamping loser when he lost the bet and refused to act like an adult about it. Maybe he shouldn't have tried to prove how worthless his girlfriend was in the first place and talked such a big game about himself to that friend in the first place. I disagree. Everyone's the idiot here. He was talking smack, you prove your point. Rubbing salt in the wound by telling a friend is just making fun of him and just making him feel worse. This is a small disagreement and you could have defended your feelings in a much less inflammatory way. I'm sorry, but she's the idiot for telling his friend and having a laugh. But you're ignoring that he not only bashed her career by talking down on it the way he did, but by being such a sore loser that he refused to do exactly what he agreed to do solely because he lost. Sorry, but not sorry, but having a laugh with the friend when they're that bothered by something he started does not make one an idiot to me. My sister-in-law has been staying with my husband and me for the past month after being evicted. She says they sold the building she was living in. I have no reason to not believe her. She works nights. My husband and I work days. We also have a son with ADHD and he's currently unmedicated because they haven't completely finished the evaluation. So, sister-in-law sleeps from 6 a.m. when she gets home until 2 to 4 p.m. when my husband and I pick our son up from daycare and get home from work. My sister-in-law is the type that needs to make comments about everything, but it's not in the typical I'm trying to start a conversation sense. She is just constantly repeating what she just saw and heard. So every day she would come downstairs and say things like, I just woke up and came down and here you are with Christopher and he's in a bad mood and I don't know why. Christopher is my son. Or, I just went to make coffee and noticed there are no cups and I thought maybe I should do the dishes. Or, my alarm went off so I came down and didn't know you guys would be home already, but here you are. Or, I was going to get leftovers because I just woke up, but then I noticed you sitting right here and you look angry, so I wanted to be a good sister-in-law and sit with you first. And trust me, I know she could very well be just socially awkward or something, but these types of things are the only things she ever says. It's literally just her talking about things she sees or hears. Stuff I already know because I'm always in the same room and see and hear the same thing she does, so it's like I'm dealing with the same issue twice, 30 plus times a day. Well, when I've gotten home for the past week, I've asked her specifically to give me space. I've told her multiple times that I don't want to talk, that I need to be alone, etc. So, yesterday I told her again that I just wanted quiet time and didn't want to talk. Her immediate reaction to this was, I just got up and came downstairs and you're in a bad mood, and I don't know why, and it's confusing me. I admittedly kind of snapped at this moment because she truly just refuses to leave me alone with these comments, so I said, maybe it's because I've asked you to leave me alone several times so I can have space alone, but you refuse because you're really annoying. I'm fully aware of what you walked into. I'm the one in here. I don't need a play-by-play on crap I already know. Mother-in-law says I'm an idiot, sister-in-law told her, because my sister-in-law has issues. She was actually diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder 2 years ago. So, am I? LMFAO, you let her have it. Hot damn, be the idiot moment. Yes, you are proudly so, as it should be. She sounds annoying, but perhaps it's her coping mechanism, not actual malice of trying to get under your skin. Very relatable to me. I back you up. Exactly. If mother-in-law wants to give her opinion, she's more than free to house sister-in-law herself. It doesn't matter what condition she may or may not have. What matters is that you made a boundary and you made it crystal clear. Your sister broke the boundary and argued against the boundary. This arrangement isn't going to work out. You know that, don't you? Time for your husband to step in and tell her to go. OP, don't sacrifice your mental health. You are the idiot. You have a special needs son, yet you're hostile to your sister-in-law. Dude, it's clear she's on the spectrum. You're just a jerk. Why attack her in such a way that she's unlikely to understand and is likely to make her more annoying to you and agitated? Figure out a better way to deal with your anger, like not waiting to get to this level before addressing it.